You just had a full argument with someone who isn't even in the room. You rehearsed what you'd say, you rehearsed what they'd say back, you won that argument 3 different ways, and you're standing alone in your kitchen. Or maybe it's smaller than that. Maybe you just whispered, "Okay, you're fine," before walking into a room full of people. Maybe you narrate your mornings out loud. Keys, wallet, phone, let's go. Like you're briefing yourself for a mission nobody assigned. If you talk to yourself, you've probably wondered if something's wrong with you. There isn't. Psychology actually has a name for what your brain is doing, and is not what you think. Society sees someone talking to themselves and assumes the worst. Unstable, lonely, losing it. So you've learned to whisper, to check over your shoulder, to go quiet the second someone walks in. But here's what's actually happening inside your head. Think of your mind like a control room. Dozens of screens running at once. Thoughts, emotions, memories, plans, worries, all broadcasting simultaneously. Most people's control rooms run 5 or 6 screens, manageable in silence. Yours runs 30. And talking out loud? That's how you pull one screen into focus above the noise. That's not a glitch. That's your brain refusing to process in low resolution. And this started earlier than you think. When you were 4 or 5, you did this constantly. You narrated your games, you talked your way through puzzles, you explained the world to yourself out loud. And nobody thought it was strange. Psychologist Lev Vygotsky called this private speech, the way children naturally use their own voice to guide their thinking. Most kids internalize it completely by around age 7. The voice moves inside, becomes silent thought. But some brains don't fully make that switch. And here's the part most people miss. That's not a failure of development. Research shows that people who keep that external channel open actually perform better on complex tasks. You didn't fail to outgrow talking to yourself. You kept a processing tool that most adults quietly abandoned. So let's talk about how this actually shows up on a normal Tuesday. First, the narrator. You walk through your morning saying things like, "Okay, keys, wallet, phone, we're good." You label your steps. You name objects out loud while looking for them. Researchers Gary Lupien and Daniel Swingley found that saying the name of something you're searching for actually activates your visual cortex. Your voice works like a search spotlight, narrowing your brain's scanning beam from "look at everything" to "find this specific shape." When you mutter "keys" while patting down the counter, you're not being scatterbrained. You're running a faster search engine than the person silently wandering room to room. Then there's the rehearser. You pre-run conversations before they happen. You script what you'll say, anticipate their response, adjust, try again. You've had 3 versions of tomorrow's difficult conversation before you even brushed your teeth. Most people walk into hard moments cold. You've already run the simulation, like a director doing a full dress rehearsal before opening night. That's not anxiety. That's your brain modeling outcomes before the stakes are real. But those 2 voices aren't the ones that keep you up at night. There are 2 more, and one of them might be the most important thing psychology has studied about self-talk: the coach. This voice shows up right before something hard. "Come on, you've handled worse. One step at a time." Picture this. You're standing outside a door, a meeting, a difficult conversation, something you've been dreading all day. Your hands are slightly cold, and you keep yourself whispering, "Okay, you're fine. Just say what you need to say and leave." You glance around to make sure nobody heard. Your face warms. You feel ridiculous. But here's what actually just happened. You switched pronouns. You didn't say "I'm fine." You said "you're fine." Psychologist Ethan Kross, who wrote the book Chatter on exactly this, found that switching from "I" to "you," or your own name when you talk to yourself, measurably lowers your stress response. Your brain treats the problem as if it's happening to someone else. Less emotional flooding, more clarity. Kross calls this distanced self-talk, and you've been doing it instinctively, maybe for years, without knowing it had a name. You weren't being weird outside that door. You're using one of the most effective self-regulation tools psychology has ever documented. If any of this sounds like your daily life, I'd love to know which voice you hear most. Drop it in the comments. But here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. Not every voice in that control room is helpful. There's a fifth voice, the prosecutor. This one shows up uninvited, usually around 2 in the morning. It puts you on trial for something you said 6 years ago. It replays every awkward pause, every wrong word, every moment you wish you could erase. And it reads the verdict before you ever get a defense. That's not processing, that's prosecution. Like being dragged into a night court where the judge, the jury, and the evidence are all just you. And none of them are on your side. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The prosecutor uses the same voice, the same habit, the same microphone as the coach. The tool is identical. The direction is completely different. Self-talk isn't the problem. Which voice you're handing the microphone to, that's the problem. So what do you do with this? Something small. I call it the voice check. Next time you catch yourself talking out loud, and you will, probably today, pause for 1 second and notice which voice is speaking right now. Is it the narrator? Let it run. Your brain is doing exactly what it needs to do. Is it the coach? Let it run. Croft's research shows that voice is literally lowering your cortisol. Is it the prosecutor? Then do one thing. Switch the pronoun. Go from I'm so stupid to your name. That was one moment. You're allowed to get it wrong. That one shift, first person to second, is the difference between spiraling and steering. Try it tonight. And one more thing. A permission you probably need to hear. You are allowed to talk to yourself out loud, without whispering, without scanning the room first. Your brain uses your voice as a thinking tool. That's not a flaw. That's a feature. Stop treating your own mind like a secret. You didn't fail to outgrow this habit. You kept a processing system most adults quietly lost. And your brain has been using it every day to navigate a world that hands you more noise than most people ever have to manage. Your control room runs more screens. Your voice is how you read them. Tell me in the comments which voice shows up most for you. The coach, the narrator, or the prosecutor. And if your brain works like this, you're probably also the kind of person who overthinks everything, even things that already happened and can't be changed. If that sounds familiar, the next video is going to land hard. You're not losing your mind. You're just using more of it.